So Bleacher Report just dropped another article going over the most likely trade candidates for all 30 MLB teams this offseason. I'll be making my own predictions as to what trades will look like this offseason after the World Series, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on that content. And also click the link in the description. Go subscribe to my second channel called The Windup. Me and my friend James are doing more podcasty baseball conversations over there, so if you want more baseball content from me or James, go subscribe to The Windup, link in the description. All right, shout out Kerry Miller. I'll also link this article in the description for helping get me some content. Let's start off in the American League East, and for the Baltimore Orioles, they think the prime target is Peter Fairbanks. That's interesting. I don't think relief pitching should be the top priority for the Orioles. We saw how awful that rotation was this year. A big reason why they struggled. Now, yes, Trevor Rogers looked great down the line, but they're losing Zach Eflin possibly to free agency. Sagano's another year older. Like, that rotation's not very good, and in terms of prospects, there are guys that are good in the system, but they are a little bit far away, like Esteban Mejia. I just don't see the Orioles going after a relief pitcher. I think Pete Fairbanks is a prime candidate to be traded this offseason because, of course, very team-friendly club option at $12.5 million, and he is a really good pitcher, but using Kittredge and Baker and Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez as reasons why to fill up this bullpen, I just don't think that's where the cheap Orioles are going to spend money, is on bullpen arms when that starting rotation needs so much work. So for me, I gotta say, don't love this prediction right off the bat. Now, I do think Pete Fairbanks gets traded, just not to the Orioles. So for the Boston Red Sox, trade for an established, versatile infielder. Prime target Houston's Mauricio Dubon. This is another one that doesn't make sense only because Dubon is adored in Houston. The fact that he played such premium defense this year, not only in the infield, but in the outfield, that's valuable. I don't know why the Astros would move on from him. Yes, he's arbitration eligible, but being able to be that utility guy, being able to play so many different positions, it is a weapon. He's not a great hitter by any means. The Red Sox have so many young players, too, that kind of are these Swiss Army knives already. Like, Christian Campbell can play a bunch of positions, not particularly well, but he's free. Marcelo Meyer is going to be able to play pretty much any position in the infield. I don't understand these first two. I don't see Mauricio Dubon at all on the Boston Red Sox, so I gotta be serious. Don't know where he is. Adding in anywhere infielder should be in the plans. Meanwhile, Houston has too many infielders now. Yeah, but he can play the outfield. He's a utility guy. He's the perfect bench person. So you would trade him from one crowded infield situation to another. I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense to me. Even if Bregman leaves, I still don't see this one. So no, I'm not a fan of the Dubon prediction. Yankees trade for an outfielder, Stephen Kwan. What are we doing? This is the annoying thing that's going on with the Yankees right now. The conversation is that the Yankees are too much boom or bust in terms of hitting home runs. The reason they lost to the Blue Jays is because the Blue Jays make so much contact. While the Blue Jays do make a lot of contact, they make some of the hardest and loudest contact in baseball this season. The team is really good at hitting. Their hitting coach boosted their bat speeds, got them to barrel up the baseball more. They were good. They made more contact than the Yankees. Yankees struck out a lot, but I wouldn't say the reason why the Yankees lost is because they're too focused on power. I don't think adding a Stephen Kwan in Yankee Stadium even makes that much sense. Guys who are contact first hitters don't particularly do well in the new Yankee Stadium. It's a tough place to get singles. This field is not a great hitter's environment for high contact guys. So for me, I don't see why they would go after Stephen Kwan. I think Stephen Kwan's a good ball player, but I do think he's a little bit overrated. This season wasn't particularly great for him. He is a fine ball player. He is good. I don't think he's bad by any means. Me calling him overrated is that we know what the trade package cost was for a guy of Stephen Kwan's caliber this trade deadline. It was way too high. I don't think that you would want to give up a lot for him. I know you're possibly losing Bellinger and Grisham, but you have Dominguez, you have Spencer Jones. There's going to be some free guys available this offseason in the outfield. I don't get it. I'm going to be honest again. I don't think Stephen Kwan fixes the Yankees' problems by any means. Tampa Bay Rays. So the player, wait, what? What is this? Again, the most likely trade for all 30 teams this offseason. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a player you're bringing in. In this case, they're thinking the Rays 100% trade Pete Fairbanks. I think you could also talk about that this could be Brandon Lau. There's a bunch of players that are starting to hit arbitration that the Rays could move on from. But yes, I don't see Pete Fairbanks staying on this roster through the offseason, especially when so many teams can use big arms out of the bullpen. Mets might be a team that needs it just off the top of the head. Yankees could be a team that needs it. At $12.5 million with the club option, I feel like it's a no-brainer that he does get moved. All right, moving on. Toronto Blue Jays trade for a starting pitcher, Miami Sandy Alcantara. I could buy it. Now, it depends what the Marlins would want. Back for a Sandy Alcantara trade, the Blue Jays farm system system is a little bizarre. There's not much pitching going on. Ricky Tiedemann is not really someone you can rely on. So if the Marlins want pitching, which I have a feeling they might, I don't think the Blue Jays are the best fit. They are losing Bassett, Scherzer, and Bieber most likely, which I think is fair to talk about. Gausman, Barrios, Trey Savage are going to be kind of their big three. Sandy would make this team better, no doubt. They're in the World Series. Shout out to Blue Jays. I think there are going to be a lot more teams interested that can offer better packages. Blue Jays I could see going on the free agent market, though, and signing some pitchers. That's kind of the spot for me because their farm system still needs to be built up a little bit more before they really start to make pushes for this, like Sandy Alcantara, even though he is a good pitcher despite how bad his season was. Again, he would be a good fit for the Blue Jays. I don't know if this is the best fit. If I were them, I'd be going elsewhere, if that makes sense. All right, let's move on down. I hated all the American League East ones. Did not like it. American League Central. Trading Luis Robert Jr., of course, makes the most sense. He's got the $20 million club options the next few years. Still plays premium defense. This year, behind the curtain, all the under-the-hood stuff was awesome for Luis Robert. He was more patient this year. He was getting on base more. The exit velos were awesome. He was running well. He played good defense. There's a good player inside of Luis Robert. We've seen it. And I do think it's a classic change of scenery. Get him out of Chicago. Get him out of the White Sox. I think from a player's perspective, imagine being this young player called up. Your team gets hot. Your team gets good. You're a big part of it. And then all of a sudden you look around a few years later, you're on the worst team in baseball history. All your friends and all your teammates have been traded, and the team that once existed no longer is. We also got to remember that the development under Tony La Russa, insane they ever hired him. So I think he's going to be traded this offseason. I think the White Sox need to cash in these chips. If they don't, it's going to be a big botch because wherever Luis Robert Jr. goes next, I promise you he is going to have a very, very good season. He might not be an all-star MVP caliber player ever again, but in terms of WAR, in terms of the defense in center field, plus the ceiling that he has at the plate, there's not going to be many better options on the trade market. Cleveland Guardians, a trade for a starting pitcher. What? The Guardians don't do that. And Mackenzie Gore? You think the Guardians are going to trade for Mackenzie Gore, who's going to get paid next season? The Nationals, first off, would be cashing in on Mackenzie Gore. Everyone in baseball knows that when Mackenzie Gore finally figures it out, he will be one of the best pitchers in baseball. We saw it earlier on in the season. He was striking guys out, throwing that high fastball. The stuff is off the charts. They're comparing it to when they trade Naylor for Slade Ciccone. Slade Ciccone is not Mackenzie Gore. These are very, very different players. He's not Luis Ortiz either. What is happening? What is going on in this article? Could the Nationals trade Mackenzie Gore? Totally in the realm of possibility. I don't think they will. He's ARB eligible this year. He's ARB eligible through 2027. I just don't see the Guardians being the team, prospect-wise. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of using pipeline. I think there are better ones out there, but just looking at their system, you're going to give up maybe a Jason Chorio. You're going to give up some guys with some high ceiling, but I don't even know if this is enough to get a guy like Mackenzie Gore, who's under control for a while, and we know will be a top pitcher. Once again, don't understand this one. The Guardians also don't want to take on money. Slade Ciccone, they traded for because they got rid of Naylor, who they knew they weren't going to re-sign, and he's ARB eligible in 2027. That doesn't make any sense to me. What is happening in these trades? Am I stupid? Trading away Steven Kwan is on the table, but he would probably be more valuable to Cleveland than he is as a trade chip. I hate the reasoning here. All right, let's move on. Detroit Tigers, a trade for a starting pitcher. Emmett Sheehan? What? You think the Tigers are going to trade for Emmett Sheehan? I guess the way that they would get Emmett Sheehan is if they move Tarik Skubal to the Dodgers. That would be the way that Emmett Sheehan gets there, because I don't see the Dodgers just being like, hey, you want him? I know the Dodgers have a ton of pitching, but Sheehan's good. I think that's someone that they want on this roster. He is very valuable. He's also free next year. Unless they're moving Skubal, which it might be Tarik Skubal's final season on the roster, and the Tigers simply have to provide him with more of a supporting cast. Yeah, I don't think Emmett Sheehan's the guy. I know we're trying to force a trade for every team, so, we have to take everything with a grain of salt. But once again, hate this. I don't know why the Dodgers would trade Emmett Sheehan unless they were getting Tarik Skubal. And then this completely foils this entire process of what the Tigers trade thing would be here. Okay, Kerry Miller, you're testing me. You're testing me today. Kansas City Royals, a trade for an outfielder, Jarren Duran. Okay, I can buy this one. I can see it. Jarren Duran had a not great season. It feels like he might be on his way out in Boston. The rumors have been swirling and swirling for now almost 2 full seasons that Jarren Duran is somewhat available. Defensively, doesn't really look like he's going to be an elite center fielder. In the corner outfield, he struggled, but of course, it's Fenway Park, so take everything with a grain of salt. I like Jarren Duran as a player. I think that the Red Sox would be giving up on him pretty early, but between Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu, and Roman Anthony, there's kind of no room for Duran because Rafaela is so much better defensively, elite there. Wilyer Abreu is probably just better than Duran right now, and Roman Anthony is a superstar in the making. Kansas City could use him. He would immediately be a huge improvement on what they have. Prospect-wise, it would cost them a lot, and they don't really have prospects. That's the hardest thing about this, is while the fit makes sense for the team, I don't know why the Red Sox would choose Kansas City when there are definitely better suitors available to get a guy like Jarren Duran who can give them prospects that they'd probably be more interested in. I don't think they're going to go after one of the catching prospects, although I think they were interested in Blake Mitchell for the draft. Maybe that's the guy, along with maybe some smaller guys in the back, but this is a very shallow farm system. All right, Minnesota Twins, a trade of Joe Ryan. Yep, I think Joe Ryan probably gets moved this offseason. It would be a good time for them to cash in. The ownership situation's weird in Minnesota. They're close to competing. Like, I wish they would actually go out and spend, because they have good enough players to put together a competitive squad, especially in the AL Central, but this might be the time to cash in on Joe Ryan, one of the best fastballs in baseball, one of the best pitchers in the league, very underrated because he pitches out in Minnesota. And the fact that there aren't a ton of legit arms available, truthfully, that we know on the market, Joe Ryan might fetch you back a pretty penny, because again, it's pretty cheap, ARB eligible through 2027. A lot of teams are going to be interested in Joe Ryan. It makes sense. Minnesota probably won't get as much for Ryan as the White Sox got for Crochet, but yeah, I agree. A small market contender could be definitely interested. I buy that one completely. I like more of who they say is going to send out. The guys coming in have made no sense to me. All right, let's move it on to the American League West. AL West. A's, a trade for a starting pitcher. Clay Holmes? What the are we talking about? You think the Mets are going to trade Clay Holmes? Have we drank stupid juice? What is fucking happening in this article? Is this real? Am I being pranked? Am I an idiot for thinking that the Mets aren't going to trade Clay Holmes? Just so you guys know, Clay Holmes threw like 160 innings of like a mid-3 ERA this year as a starting pitcher. For $13 million, that is extremely valuable. He's not going anywhere. At the absolute worst, he goes back into the Mets bullpen as a high leverage reliever, but he just proved he can pitch in a major league season as a starting pitcher for the year. The Mets are not trading Clay Holmes. Mets would trade David Peterson, I think, before they trade Clay Holmes. This doesn't make any sense. What? And I know a sinker ball pitcher makes sense in that tiny little ballpark, but I mean, what are we talking about here? I can't even, whatever. I'm getting tired. Move me on to the next one. Pirates would trade Mitch Keller to the Houston Astros. Okay, I can get behind this one. I don't think the Astros are bringing back Framber Valdez. They need another frontline guy, or at least another better guy, to go along with Hunter Brown. Kind of tough to rely on Lance McCullers and Christian Javier right now. Ronel Blanco's injured. Luis Garcia, who knows what's going on with him. Wisniewski, Brandon Walter. Like, Astros pitching is a little sketchy. I could totally see Mitch Keller being an Astro. Big velo guy. Astros help out with pitching a ton. This could be a good find for them. And I don't think the price would be that much, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the Pirates probably want to clear this salary. Any money you can save to go towards Paul Skeens is probably going to be something that the Pirates are going to try to do over the next couple years. And if you could shed the, almost $60 million of Mitch Keller's contract, I think Pirates would be willing to give him away for not that much. Like, shockingly little. Still would be a good haul back. I'm not saying it wouldn't be, but a lot less than probably you think. Okay, I like one of these trade ideas. Los Angeles Angels, a trade for Taylor Ward. I mean, they have to trade him at some point, right? Cash in on Taylor Ward, Artie Moreno. Perry Minasian, cash in. I still don't know what the direction of this organization is. It never makes sense for a second. They love winning 70 games and not making the playoffs and not having one of the top draft picks. I like some of their players in their farm system. I still think it is a bit away from being a top farm in baseball, but I've liked some of the picks that they've made. Cash in on Taylor Ward. Taylor Ward should go to the Kansas City Royals. Taylor Ward should go to the Philadelphia Phillies. Taylor Ward should go to a bunch of teams in baseball. How about the Houston Astros? They got to trade him. I think they have to trade him. Once again, clapping on the guys who should be traded. Seattle Mariners, a trade for a corner outfielder. St. Louis, Lars Nootbaar. I'll tell you what, I don't hate this one. Now, that being said, I don't know what I actually think of Lars Nootbaar as a player much anymore. This year wasn't good. He was a below average hitter. He's fine in the outfield. He's more of a corner guy now. Again, Victor Robles did not have a great season this year, and I don't think you can rely on him to be an everyday guy. He's more of a fill-in fourth outfielder. I don't know how good Lars Nootbaar is anymore. I don't know what the ceiling is, but I do think he's a high floor guy, and for the Mariners, left-handed bat, gets on base, probably would be a nice addition to this lineup. We saw some of the guys that were getting at bats in the ALCS. I'm so sorry to my editor who's a Mariners fan, but you could use more bats still, even to fill out this roster. Like Victor Robles off the bench feels a lot better than Victor Robles playing every single game. Don't hate this idea of Lars Nootbaar. If he's available, I think you'd have to trade a decent bit though. And then the Texas Rangers trading Adolis Garcia. Yeah, it's a crowded outfield. Adolis Garcia has been bad, and on a contract that I do believe is expiring. Next year will be his final year. Shouldn't get that much in ARB. There's, again, probably a team out there. Maybe like this could be I could see the Padres being interested in him. Wouldn't cost very much. I think the Rangers are trying to get rid of Adolis, and again, an outfield that is pretty crowded with legit talent. So yeah, I'd expect Adolis' days in Texas are done. He's also been not very good the last 2 years. Since the World Series, he's fallen off. And apparently Chris Young has said a further decrease in payroll is likely. Easiest way to do it, trade Adolis Garcia. Okay, now to the National League. Here we go. NL East. Braves. Trade for a closer. Pete Fairbanks. Sure, fine. I think the Braves have bigger problems right now, but yeah, I could totally see this. Bring in Pete Fairbanks. He's cheap. The Braves love to go after these kind of players. He's really good. He would help out the Braves a lot, but again, they have bigger issues right now than who's going to close games for them because they didn't win many games this year. Braves had a horrendous year. So bad. Marlins. Trade of Sandy Alcantara. Yep, we know this. We kind of talked about it earlier. I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in Sandy. I think the price tag is going to be kind of high. I think they're going to want a good pool back. He's cheap. That contract is free. That's a little more than Clay Holmes is making next year. And Sandy at his peak is better than Clay Holmes, clearly. $17 million for him next year is a steal. 21 in 2027. As long as he gets back to peak Sandy, which I think he can, absolute steal. This is a guy that teams are going to be all over, and Marlins are going to get a lot back for. Peter Bendick's doing a great job over there. Okay, for the New York Mets, a trade of Jeff McNeil. Yeah, I do think they're probably moving on from my boy Jeff. Sad to see him go because he has been one of my favorite players on this team, but because of all the young players here and just kind of the logjam in the middle infield, I do think that Jeff and his contract, they would love to be able to free up that money. He is good. He's valuable. I think there's teams out there that would love him. You know who would be good on? He'd be great on the Seattle Mariners. I think the Kansas City Royals would love him. I think there's teams in the National League that would love Jeff McNeil. I think the Dodgers would love Jeff McNeil. I think he'd be great there. I don't want the Mets to trade him there, but I'm just saying, Jeff McNeil will have suitors. He's not going to get a huge haul back because, again, the contract's not the best, but I definitely see the Mets moving on from Jeff McNeil, which does bring a tear to my eye. Next up, we got the Phillies, a trade for a catcher, Adley Rutschman. I don't know about this one. I'll be honest, I do think they're probably just going to bring back JT Realmuto, although I have a sneaky suspicion might go back to the Marlins. I weirdly think the Marlins are going to grab some good veterans this year, but I see them bringing back JT. There's kind of no other options. I don't know if Adley does end up getting moved. He's definitely on the block, I think, for the right price, and I think the Phillies would be able to give. They have a pretty solid farm system, especially at the top. I just don't know if it's going to be an Adley Rutschman type. I don't see the Orioles moving on too yet. I know Samuel Basallo was great, but behind the plate, he's a little rough. Again, more so, I think the obvious one is Phillies trade for a corner outfielder or Phillies trade for some bullpen arms. I mean, that one feels like the more obvious choice to me. Washington Nationals, a trade for Mackenzie Gore. They're really trying to push this. And again, I get it. I think that there's a world where they trade Mackenzie Gore and try to cash in on the value that he has, again, because he's controllable, young, and cheap. The problem is, new people in. Is that going to be one of the first moves they want to make? Move on from Mackenzie Gore, who came over in the Soto trade? I guess it depends what the haul is back. If you get good prospects, it could help out this farm system. Nationals, again, are weirdly not incredibly far away, but also still very far, if that makes sense. This was a bad season, but between the rumors of possibly selling the team and then with all the stuff going on with the GM and the manager, and there was a lot of turmoil going on in Washington, so it's chalking up to a bad season. Not a lot of development this past year. And that's the National League East. All right, National League Central, Cubs, a trade for a bullpen arm. I mean, this is what you do for the Cubs, Jimmy Herget. Now, that being said, Jimmy Herget, I believe, had a fantastic year. I think he was really good with the Colorado Rockies. I don't think that this is the arm that the Cubs need. I think, especially looking at why the Cubs lost this series, I think they're going to be very much in the market for a Sandy. I think they're going to be looking to get starting pitching help. They kind of pieced together the bullpen. It really wasn't their biggest problem in the postseason. Obviously, I don't think you feel great about what that bullpen looked like, but guys like Daniel Palencia, and they even turned Brad Keller into a bit of a demon. This is kind of like a weird one where, sure, I could see Jimmy Herget going to the Cubs, and I think Cubs fans would like Jimmy Herget. He would be a good addition. But it feels like a weirdly low reach in an article where you just had the Phillies trading for Adley Rutschman. You're like, you know what? Jimmy Herget, Cubs. Okay, whatever. Don't really care enough to even argue. For the Reds, trade for an outfield bat. Yeah, Taylor Ward makes a ton of sense. He would mash in that ballpark. It is hitter friendly. He is a good hitter. He's played decent outfield at times in left field. Feels like it makes sense, and he wouldn't cost very much. He would be pretty affordable, I think, for a Reds farm system that can afford to make some moves. And if you're the Angels, this is a great match. They have players that you should be interested in. This one makes sense to me. Well done. Milwaukee Brewers, a trade for a controllable starting pitcher. Minnesota's Joe Ryan. I mean, yes and no. I don't know if Brandon Woodruff's going to hit free agency rather than his mutual option. He got hurt again. He might want to stay in Milwaukee. Jose Quintana is probably going to hit free agency. They do have a bunch of good young pitchers, and they are looking to maybe move on from Freddie Peralta, which is crazy. I don't know if Joe Ryan is necessarily the guy. There might be someone that we're not even considering. Joe Ryan is going to get paid in arbitration. He has good numbers. So they're just going to basically rinse and repeat Freddie Peralta again. I don't hate this one, but it's definitely not, I don't see it. Again, it's hard in an article where you have to pick someone for every single team. Thinking about this Brewers lineup and this team, I don't know if they necessarily need or Joe Ryan, they kind of need more of that middle of the pack because they do have just kind of a lot of 4s and 5s in that rotation outside of Freddie Peralta and Mizorowski. And then Pirates, yep, could have guessed a trade of Mitch Keller. It makes sense. Bubba Chandler looks great. Braxton Ashcraft looks great. Jared Jones should be coming back at some point. You have Paul Skeens. I love what the Pirates are doing with their farm system. I wish their owner would spend even a cent. I know I'm wearing a Pirates hat, not a Pirates fan, as you can imagine. But I love what they've done with their farm. They have some of the most exciting players in all of minor league baseball, like Connor Griffin, Edward Florentino. Sick. Esmeralyn Valdez is torching the Arizona Fall League. Fun players, get rid of Mitch Keller. I agree. I think that's fine. But also, they don't have to. They can hold on to him, and he will be just fine, like he always is. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, a trade of Nolan Arenado. He's due $31 million over the next 2 years. It is probably either going to be him, Sonny Gray, Wilson Contreras. Maybe all three are going to get traded. He has a no-trade clause, so I think he can decide where he wants to go. I think there's a list of teams that he would have to waive it for. But the problem with Arenado is who in the world wants to pay Nolan Arenado at all to play right now? Like defensively this year, he was still good, as you can see by OAA, 3 OAA, but not the levels that he used to be at. Sure, he doesn't strike out a lot, but the barrel rate was pitiful. The average exit velo was pitiful. The hard hit rate was pitiful. He didn't walk at all. He's slow. He's aging like milk. I love Nolan Arenado as a player, but the problem with moving him is who in the world is truly going to trade for him unless the Cardinals pay all the money? That's what you got to wonder. Because if you're taking that Arenado contract, the $31 million, you're giving up, what, a bag of balls? At this point, you're doing the Cardinals kind of a favor. I don't know how much Arenado has left in the tank, which is sad because he was one of my favorite players. All right, and then for the last division, we've got the National League West. Rockies, I know for a fact they're going to talk about moving Jimmy Herget. Diamondbacks, a trade for a starting pitcher. Miami's Edward Cabrera. Don't hate that. I think Edward Cabrera could be on the move. The thing is, they would have to get a ton back for him. Edward low-key was awesome last season. The numbers were great. He finally figured it out. Threw more strikes, got more swing and misses. The stuff, it all came together because on paper, you're like, how is Edward Cabrera not an ace? And last year, started to show signs. Of course, they need to fill in the gap of Zach Gallen. Corbin Burns is hurt. The rotation's not great. They need a lot of bullpen help too out in Arizona. In terms of prospects, they do have guys. Again, not so much pitching. I know Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt were guys that came over in the Merrill Kelly trade. This top 5, though, is interesting. Guys that I could see the Marlins being interested in, especially middle infield guys like Casey Cunningham, Tommy Troy. But it's going to cost a lot. Like, it might cost Jordan Lawler. Truthfully, might cost Jordan Lawler. Colorado Rockies, Jimmy Herget, we know about it. Hunter Goodman is virtually untouchable. Herget might be on the list of guys that can move. Sure, I mean, he was good and probably going to get outs for teams. Dodgers, a trade of starting pitching, seeking lineup and depth or prospect. The Dodgers have all of Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Ohtani, Sasaki, Sheehan, Gavin Stone, River Ryan, Landon Knack, Bobby Miller, Ben Casparis, Robleski, Michael Grove, and Kyle Hurd. Okay, so I'm going to do you a favor. Bobby Miller stinks. He's not going to pitch for the Dodgers as a starter. Landon Knack is not really someone that you want beginnings on. And the Dodgers, by the way, have been doing this for a decade where they have 100 starting pitchers. And what do you know? Been the most successful team in the last 5, since 2020, the most successful team. Obviously, they went out and paid a ton of guys and brought in superstars, but being able to have 100 arms that are controllable, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Maybe they move one of these guys, but truthfully, at the end of the day, there's no reason to force it, especially when the Dodgers will spend money. I think if they move one of these, it'd probably be for like a relief arm. And that being said, one of the better relief arms out there. Like, I could see them low-key going after like a Felix Bautista. Just because the Orioles so desperately need starting pitching, maybe you get one of these controllable guys. Also, Roki Sasaki looks pretty damn good out of the bullpen, so maybe that's where he ends up next season too. 14 arms, that should probably be in a big league rotation. Robleski's not really a major league starter right now. River Ryan coming back from injury. Gavin Stone coming back from injury. Bobby Miller stunk. Ben Casparis is a bullpen arm. Michael Grove and Kyle Hurd are probably also bullpen arms. It's a bit of a stretch. San Diego Padres, a trade for a first or second baseman. Prime target Yandy Diaz. Don't hate the idea of Yandy being a Tampa Bay Ray. I think Yandy's market's weirdly going to be kind of competitive this offseason, and they're not going to have the best value or assets to give up. San Diego's got nothing in that farm. Arias is out, so they definitely need to fill up one of the infield spots. Not too many guys knocking on the door in San Diego either, coming up through the minors. Yeah, I guess it could be Yandy. I could see them trading for like a Brandon Lau too. I'm really thinking about this one, and it's kind of a sure, I guess. I don't know. To me, not that big of a deal, but also AJ Preller, until he proves that he's not going to be going for it every single year, they're going for it. So yeah, why not? San Francisco Giants. Is this the last team? Yeah, last team, San Francisco Giants, a trade for a starting pitcher. Minnesota's Pablo Lopez. Totally can buy this because, again, Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, awesome. The rest of it, bit of a fall off. And pitching prospect-wise, like Wisenhunt's okay. I don't think there's a lot of guys that are close to Major League ready right now in the Giants system, as you can tell. But they do have people that they would definitely trade for a guy like Pablo Lopez. And I think Pablo Lopez would be awesome there. He's a very underrated pitcher. I am scared about the injuries coming back from. Anything with the shoulders, always a little scary. But when Lopez is healthy, he's one of the top 20, 25 pitchers in the game and would help this Giants rotation massively. So yeah, I like this move a lot. I could totally see them going for Pablo. Overall, weird article. Again, I'm interested to see what I do in my video going over one trade for every single team. Let me know in the comment section what you guys would do for your favorite team. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more baseball content. And that's where I'll wrap it up. You know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video. This is my most recent upload. And this is the windup, my second channel. Go subscribe for more baseball, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.